you're put in certain situations, and you now have the choice to make the decision on how you're going to behave in that.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll fail, and sometimes you'll succeed. But even if you fail, it was almost like preordained to happen that way. Mm-hmm. It was meant to happen to put you in this position. But if you work hard enough, if you believe, if you show yourself a little bit of grace, and you kind of account for what you've done, like the light at the end of the tunnel will manifest itself.
Yeah.
Hey everybody! What a way to start.
Why are you looking at me? I can't help you. I'm just.
You're the doctor.
I know, and I'm going, I don't know what to do with these guys.
And I have brought him down to my level.
Yeah.
So, you know what? That's considered a win today.
That's right.
All right, so we've been talking for 20 minutes, so we want to welcome everybody to the 10-8 podcast today. We're rejoined by our first return guest, Steve Barrett. Back by popular demand, there were 2 comments that asked him to come back.
Yes.
And so we are fulfilling the dreams of our 19 listeners, and we have brought you back, sir. Now, one of them may have been your brother. Just saying. But, hey, we want everybody to enjoy the show today. Hit that like and subscribe button, as I'm being told to do every single time. So, please, seriously, we're up to like 500 followers.
Wow.
On YouTube. I don't know what Spotify looks like because I don't know how to look at Spotify.
I don't know how to spell it. So
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't
it's
have
Spot.
It.
Fi.
Yeah, that's it.
S-P-O-T.
Hippopotamus. Water pig.
The most dangerous animal on the planet.
Wow.
Oh, we digress.
Yeah.
Steve, welcome back today,
yes,
man.
nice,
We appreciate
my hordes of tens of fans.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're reaching folks. We're making a difference.
That's right.
We're making a difference.
Frankly, I'm surprised going around the state now. People go, man, I love the podcast. It's great. I'm learning a lot, and surprised you. It's helping people.
Yeah. So I don't know where they're watching it. Right?
I don't know.
But it's amazing how many people
are watching it, though.
Yeah, we were in Harrison, Arkansas, of all places, a couple of weeks ago, and half the people in the room walked up and said, "Hey, great episode, such and such. Great episode, such and such. Bring Steve Barrett back." So
yeah,
tell them to like and subscribe.
Yeah, so we did. We
Hit
told
that
everybody that
notification
said
bell.
that. And then Jason gives them a sticker. If they mention the 10-8 podcast, they get a 10-8 sticker.
That's cool.
So that's kind of cool. I don't know where you carry them, but they
I carry them in my
mysteriously appear.
briefcase. None of the funds are state-issued funds. They're personally out of my pocket.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Well, we've spent a lot of money out of our pocket to run this division. Oh, that's probably not worth saying on the air. But anyway, so Steve, welcome back. We want to continue our conversation about leadership and your journey, what you're doing across the state, because you're doing some really great things. We've got you scheduled to come in and teach a bunch of cops over the next couple months. But I kind of want to, if we have time, I kind of want to go back to when you were here the first go around, and you were talking about a deployment, 2010.
I think it was actually, it was the 2010, 2012 workup. So 2012 was the actual.
Okay, so, but you talked about it not being so much a failure tactically, but from a leadership perspective, you said it was very eye-opening, and it really kind of changed course on the way you looked at leadership, and it led you to develop some of the tenets that you're currently teaching and living by. You kind of want to walk us back through that and kind of cover some of that again?
Yeah, I mean, again, the deployment from a personal skill set, I think, like I said before, I was good enough to do the job, but from the perspective of leading teams of people with big personalities that have varying opinions, and they're all like pretty aggressive, guys that are really, really talented. I just wasn't. I didn't understand people. I didn't understand human psychology. I didn't understand how to keep my own emotions in check when I was upset about certain things, and I kind of had one leadership style to offer people at that point, and that was kind of like a my way or the highway.
Very autocratic.
Yeah, it was super autocratic, and it wasn't because I thought that was the best thing to do. It was kind of the only thing I had to offer. But I remember coming out of that deployment. Just I was 10 years into my career. So I was halfway through. Like probably a lot of law enforcement officers that are 10 years into their tenure, and they're looking at, okay, what does retirement look like? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? If you're doing a job you want to do and you're surrounded by people you want to be around, which was the case for me, it's like, okay, well, I have to figure it out. And clearly I just had this 2-year experience of trying to lead these guys, and I definitely let them down. And
So
I,
you say
I wanted to change it.
You kind of felt it over. So it was 2 year. It was the workup and then the deployment as well, right? So when did you start realizing? We call it holes in our bucket, right?
Yeah.
So when did you start realizing that you were struggling from a leadership standpoint?
Almost right away.
Really?
Like, almost right. So I got into that platoon. So I went through Green Team. So I screened to go to SEAL Team 6. I went through the selection process for like a hot sec and got dropped during the CQB phase. And that was the first time in my career that I'd really failed something from, a selection process. So that was a tough thing to kind of deal with, to kind of find, like your place, your purpose, your worth. I was trying to get to a place that I wasn't welcomed.
Yeah.
And, that was a
Good, but not good
massive
enough.
blow to, to the ego. And I go to SEAL Team 2 after that, and I'm just another shooter in the platoon at that point. I'm an E7, I'm a chief, but the task organization, the leadership team had already been established, and, it was kind of a perfect situation for me at that point because, mentally I'm in a place where, I've got a tenuous grasp on, staying in check because it's just
Ego's bruised.
ego, pity party, just, pissed off and just like, I hate you and I hate SEAL Team 6 and I'm never coming back. Like, screw you. Like all of that going on. And so I go to the platoon and I just kind of ease back into platoon life. Like an old man into a warm bath, nice and slow, and it was like a perfect situation. And I started being one of the guys, and I was friends with everybody, and I didn't really have to hold people accountable. But
You had the rank, but you didn't have a position of authority at the time.
right,
So
yeah.
you
But I did see things that were going on that I thought could be improved within the platoon, but it wasn't like necessarily my place all the time to kind of voice my opinion every second. You got to let the boss do the job kind of thing. But then the platoon chief that was in the platoon broke his ankle on a jump, and then I was thrust into that position. But by that point, I had already kind of compromised my integrity.
Sure.
Like getting too close. I wasn't able to make that separation from being one of the boys to now being in charge, and there was a lot of just a lack of maturity on my part to make that transition, emotional maturity, and trying to kind of, once I was put in that position, I was starting from behind in a sense of the position I put myself in. So like it was almost immediate. It's just like
Did you feel any need to overcompensate because you had that failure, and now you have this opportunity to not necessarily be in the limelight, but to lead from another position?
No, it wasn't really an overcompensation. It was more of when I was a young guy, platoon chiefs, like in my mind, they were the kind of end all be all of like what goes on, and like when they make a decision, the table slap, that's it.
Yep.
And that's kind of just, I expected that kind of thing, And what I wasn't prepared for was when I would say to do something, I was always anticipating everybody like, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full. And the second that somebody disagreed with me or pushed back, I didn't have a response prepared. I didn't have, and I was kind of caught off guard. And I was like, why aren't you just doing what I'm saying?
Wow.
And it's like, well, because I'm not a robot kind of thing. And I'm like, have a question.
Yeah, and there's
I
a
don't
time and a
necessarily
place.
agree with you. And it's like, well, screw you, kind of thing. And so I wasn't like, I just didn't have all the tools.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have the training. I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't. And it was just OJT for, the remainder of that tour. And it really culminated on deployment where it was just a stark realization that you don't know what you're doing.
So let me ask you, when you started, all right, obviously there's a realization, I need more tools. I love that. What did that start to look like? What did you start to do at that point to grow?
It was just going into trying to figure me out first.
Okay.
Like, that was it. And I started writing things down. Like what I really did was start journaling and writing about things that confused me or annoyed me or intrigued me. But they were they were related to the job, and I started capturing that data.
Yeah.
I really started writing about, like, why do I act like this? Why do I get so insecure about this kind of stuff? Why am I so emotional about these things? And I had to kind of figure out me first, and that's one thing I didn't have figured out, was why do I do what I do? Like, I need to have a baseline of understanding of, like, why I prioritize, why I value certain things, what makes me upset, the kind of people that make me upset, what do I do that makes me upset, what do I get embarrassed about? Like, I had to kind of figure out myself first before it could ever start affecting anybody else. And that's kind of, I think, a difficult thing to do for anybody. It's easier to do it, I think, in your 30s than it is in your 60s, to really take a hard look and kind of introspection and self-reflection of where are you culpable in all the failures that go on.
I don't know if you and I got much more room to change.
I know, I got a lot of room.
I mean, we may not look it, but we're creeping up on that age.
Well, I mean, it's a difficult thing to do for anybody. It really is. And, even from that point on, the amount of failures I've had and the mistakes that I've made that, God, I wish I could take back and I could change. And tons of lessons that I learned from them, but it came at the cost of this wake of destruction in my path that, you make some decisions in your life and you go down some paths that you're not going to come back. It's hard to come back from. Yeah. Like, in the complete sense of the word.
So what did you figure out about yourself? So we really preach commander's intent, understanding the why. There's a time to ask questions. We understand that. And the generation of officers that are coming on board, they do ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Now, there's a time and a place for it. But what did you figure out about yourself? Why did the why bother you?
It wasn't, it was just kind of, my actions causing a certain reaction in life and then not liking the reaction of it, right?
Did it make you doubt yourself that they were questioning you, or was it just strictly an
Yeah, no, there was that too. Like, I've always been really hypersensitive of, people questioning my competency level. Like, growing up as a kid, like, it took me, like, I don't know if I talked about it last time, but I had a bit of a learning disability, and it just took me forever to learn how to read. Yeah. And again, I've got an identical twin brother that's like the more handsome one and a smarter one. So he's figuring everything out, and I'm not.
Yeah. Right.
And it wasn't like I was dyslexic. I didn't even have, like, the benefit of being dyslexic where everything's, like, out of order. No, it's in the right order. I just couldn't do it. So
I can read it. I just don't understand.
Yeah, it's just like
there's letters there.
I see them in that order. I just don't know what it means.
No, but you're bringing that with you. And when we talk about this in our classes, is all of us bring some sort of baggage, so to speak. Yeah. So there was something from childhood that caused you to react a certain way. So you mentioned this just very briefly. You were thrust, honestly, into this position of leadership.
Yeah.
And you mentioned no one taught you. You didn't have any training. So honestly, that shocks me because my assumption is the military, never in the military, is they start teaching you leadership as soon as you get ready.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, like, every rank you go through, they've got formalized like training, but to me, it's nothing. It's checking the box. It's and basically, like, the classes that I'm teaching now, it's everything that I wish I knew back then.
That's
awesome.
Like,
where did I fail? What do I think might be helpful to somebody in my situation? And if I'm doing a class on, conflict resolution, we're talking about people's personalities. We're talking about the psychological framework of like why people behave the way they do. And one of the things we talk about is conditioning and learning. And that's important to me, to know the conditions that people came from and what they learned from it, to then, if you're a leader and you know that about you, or if I know the conditions that you came from and what you learned from it, it gives me some predictability of how you may behave or how you may act or the decisions you may make in certain situations, and if we know that about our team and the individuals that we have in them, then we can stack the deck in their favor, that we're putting them in a position to succeed and not fail.
I love that, Stephen, and I think
know
that
your people.
That's it.
I mean,
we talk about
appreciate
when we're teaching leadership, we start with servant leadership, and it's all about knowing your people, how to get them where they want to be, accomplishing the mission, but you got to know your people.
Yeah.
And then knowing each one of them reacts differently based on the circumstances where they came from.
Yeah. And really, I project a lot of myself onto the class and a lot of the failures that I've had.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I talk to certain classes and I have a really strong sense of urgency about what they're doing and what they need to do, because it's important, because I've been in that situation and I see the path you're going down. So sometimes it resonates with people that are like-minded, and other times it just doesn't. It's like, I think the equivalent, I was talking to a pastor of a church. He's like, hey, when I'm preaching out there, there's some people are just nodding along getting it, and others just want to be anywhere but there.
That's right.
And it's just, that's the way life is. But yeah, so it's super, what I try to do is simplify things to the best of my ability, because I like dealing with and talking about some of the things we talk about in these classes, whether you're talking about how to make a decision or how to task organize appropriately, or set your division of labor appropriately, or whatever the case is. Like, you as a leader, you've got all these considerations that you're accounting for, of personalities, of biases, of stereotypes, of how to communicate effectively, like what leadership style you need. If you think about the sum total of what you're trying to do when you're leading a team of individuals, it could seem super overwhelming.
Right.
And it's also super complicated, because one little thing you could be talking about, whether it's why you act the way you do or communicate the way you do, if you really deep dive that and start peeling the onion, like, you're going to go down a rabbit hole. And so how, as leaders, do we tell a future leader or somebody else, like, okay, I'm going to talk about leadership, but I'm going to demystify it a little bit for you, simplify it. And it's like, okay, well, you want to know how to communicate effectively to your team? Well, like, all of those variances and nuances you have to account for, you simplify it with a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, have a relationship. Wow. Say hi to people. Look them in the eye. Have a genuine conversation. Like, if you have the personality of a roof shingle and people don't really like approaching you,
right.
Like, you don't have to change your personality, but you have to know that that's a tendency. And you don't have to be gregarious and outgoing and friendly to everybody, but you got to be approachable.
Right.
So I think good leaders, to me, they exist in two paradoxical states at the exact same time, simultaneously, where it's like, I am caring and compassionate, but I'm also hold a standard. And
hold you accountable.
Yeah, and there's accountability to it.
That's awesome, man. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you feel yourself now, this is your place, purpose, and worth? I mean.
Yeah, I think so, professionally.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guilt that I have of things that I've done or not done throughout my career. Things that I wish would have gone differently, or mistakes that I've made. But to me, it's part of the life experience, and it's part of me paying it forward. I think I'm trying to find a silver lining to all the terrible things that I've done and the mistakes that I've made.
Yes,
and there's been good stuff too, but when I look at it and put it into perspective, like, I believe in God, and I believe that things happen for a reason, and there's no such thing as determinism, and you're put in certain situations, and it's you now have the choice to make the decision on how you're going to behave in that. and sometimes you'll fail, and sometimes you'll succeed. But even if you fail, it was almost like preordained to happen that way. It was meant to happen to put you in this position. But if you work hard enough, if you believe, if you show yourself a little bit of grace, and you kind of account for what you've done, like the light at the end of the tunnel will manifest itself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is trying to figure out, okay, 2 decades plus in the SEAL teams, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean much unless you kind of let somebody else learn from your mistakes and grow from what you've learned and share it. And
that's awesome.
There's no patent on leadership and life experiences, and I think it should be shared.
And I love the aspect that you're willing to share that. We talk a lot about our failures. We talk about successes, very small, but man, my box of failures is huge compared to any successes I have. So,
well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say you failed more than you succeeded. What I think is important that we understand that our growth.
I would agree.
Our growth comes from our failures.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody in this room has had a level of success that's honestly, it's pretty cool. I mean, I know where you've been, know what you've done.
Yeah.
You've had a great journey, but that's not where we learn.
No,
That's not our growth curve. The steepest part of our growth comes from our failures.
Oh, I completely agree. We learn nothing really from the successes other than I made it or I did it. So, for you to come in and go, hey, you can just honestly, you walk around and go, I'm a SEAL. And people go, oh, he's a SEAL. Yeah. That's awesome. But to share that, and when we teach, we talk about the aspects. We're going to share lessons learned. So we're going to talk about failures with you guys. I always tell the story. I had a supervisor tell me one time that true leaders never share the failures, never share the mistakes, never share anything wrong that's going on, because that way the troops, so to speak, will look at you as a failure. And I've always disagreed with that. I've always thought, man, those lessons learned are what's absolutely key for that.
Well, how do we mentor the next generation if we're not willing to share our failures and how we grew from those failures?
Yeah. I mean, and there's sensitive failures that people have, and you don't always want to go into the minutia of it, but you can talk about the facts, or you can talk about the circumstances of the situation, and you can find the relatability into what somebody's doing in their life, and it's still impactful and meaningful. And I agree, like, you can't, you have to be vulnerable with your people. And if you're not willing to be vulnerable as a leader and share it, then you can't relate to anybody.
I was looking at some research the other day, and it said most people don't want a perfect leader; they want an authentic leader.
Yeah.
And I think when a leader that has competency makes a mistake, owns it, and then pivots and says, "Look, I did this. This is what we're doing, but we're going to learn." What do we just tell everybody? It's okay to make a mistake. Yeah. It doesn't mean the mistake's okay.
Yeah.
But it means we're going to give you room to fail, but we're going to give you room to succeed also. Sure. And I love that.
Yeah. When I would run like disciplinary review boards for younger SEALs that got into like alcohol related issues or DUI or whatever the case is, I see the leaders that understand but not condone are the ones that I see that still have a relationship intact with this person at this point in their career, and 5 or 10 years down the line. You can be peers, right? But if in that moment we're casting life lessons to the sinners with righteous indignation of, I can't believe you did this.
Right. You did it last night, but
it's like it's like you can't believe it. Like you can't understand that at all. Like of course I can understand this. Doesn't mean I condone it.
Yeah.
And then now as a leader, you're in a position to do something about it.
Right.
And I remember like having a lot of silver bullets expended on me by leaders that I would get in trouble, and it would just like, no accountability to it. And then now I'm in a position where somebody's doing the same thing that I did, but I got away with it, and now I have to hold them accountable, and I feel a level of hypocrisy.
Sure. Yes.
And then
looking back, do you wish some of those silver bullets would have been held back?
I don't know if I'd still be in the Navy.
So,
no, in a sense, maybe yes. In a sense, it's hard to, hindsight's 20/20. but I wouldn't be in this position to have some of the background and contextual data to speak on it. But yeah, like then it just drives home the point of, well, nobody, if you're in a leadership position, nobody cares about your hangups. Nobody cares about your insecurities or what hypocrisy you feel. It's like, do you understand the role and what it demands out of you? Well, if you understand that, then do it. If not, then get out of the way and let somebody else do it.
100%, man.
And then it's that whatever the hypocrisy is, the way you look at yourself at the end of the day is, okay, how did I adjudicate this? How did I communicate with this person? Was I crafting life lessons? If I was, then yeah, you're a hypocritical jerk. But if you can look at it and be like, yes, I understand. I've been where you're at. But I don't condone it. I can't, like, it's not acceptable. Yeah. And here is what, the get well plan is going to be for this.
And see, I love that. You did just point out, I love that redemptive aspect of leadership where we're saying, all right, this is a mistake. I don't like it when somebody goes, man, you screwed up, blah, 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 and then that's the end of it. It's like, well, show me the path.
Yeah.
All right, I can admit, I can see the failure, but what does the next step look like?
I love that, I think an authentic community it's a forgiving one, it's an understanding one, but it's one that doesn't tolerate mediocrity, and there still has to be you have to learn from it and you have to right yourself. But if you're not willing to be if you fight it and you're not culpable and you don't eat some humble pie, then the community is like, no, like not acceptable.
I agree.
Like that's where it's like we're cutting away the weak.
So we struggle in our culture on the LEO side with vulnerability. I think we're probably a little more vulnerable now than when we were coming up. Obviously, suck it up buttercup era where we didn't talk and we weren't vulnerable. So did you struggle with that within the culture that you were serving in at the time? I mean, we do, or have seen it in our journey, probably better now. A little more, I'd say leaders are a little more vulnerable now than they used to be.
Sure.
Especially the younger ones.
Especially the younger ones.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with, the Leos and the SEAL teams. You got one end of the pendulum where it's just like, suck it up, buttercup, and like drive on. And if you have feelings, stuff them deep down inside and never let them come out.
Yeah.
But then I think what I've seen in the last 10 years is just this overcorrection and like the softening of people and the creation of victimhood. And, it's almost like part of me is like, yes, talk about the issues that are going on because you need to be able to, depressurize a little bit.
Yeah, unpack it a little bit.
But the other part is me, it's like, if you stop talking about something, it might not be a problem. Maybe it's a problem because you talk about it all the time.
Sure.
And your entire persona and personality is now built upon this, trial and tribulation that you went through. Like, and it's just an overcorrection.
There's got to be a conclusion to it somewhere.
Well, there's got to be a conclusion, and to me, it's just got to be a balance. When your entire life is just surrounded by being a victim of something, like that's too much. Like nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear it all the time. That's when it's like a little bit of suck it up, buttercup is introduced. But to me, everything it's all about being finding that balance.
You said something last time, and that really has impacted me since you said it, and it was I've learned to care without coddling. And bro, I want to tell you, when you said that really hit me deep in my soul because
and we were dealing with a couple internal issues at the time where that probably needed to be said. You talk about doors opening seasons, and when we had our last conversation with you, we were actually dealing with a couple things that was very applicable to at the time.
And that's such a powerful thought. As I want to shepherd you, but sometimes there's discipline, there's accountability. If we're going to achieve excellence, if excellence is our standard, we're going to be elite. There's got to be care. I care about you as a person, but also the mission. We got a mission, and so.
Well, the shepherd carries a staff.
Yeah,
exactly. He carries a rod and a staff
to
protect and sometimes to discipline and break down.
That's right.
And
it's not about abuse; it's about discipline.
It is. It is.
Right. But that point, I'm just telling you, that was, one of those moments in life where I'm like, wow, that really means a lot to me as a leader.
And he's a great instructor. Yeah. I'm just saying he's got great info.
He should teach classes.
He should teach some classes.
I think we'll do that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, didn't you just develop a new class?
I did.
Yeah.
What a handsome question.
Sir. Teed that one up for you there, sir.
Talk to us about it, sir.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about this new class that has just kind of rolled out. And I started, it's a series, it's 6 classes in the leadership series, and the third one that's been built and finalized is how to make high quality decisions. And I reached out to a lot of trusted agents, guys that I've worked with in the past that I really looked up to and I respected and I valued their opinion, and they were, mentors of mine or friends of mine or peers of mine. And I just sent them out some pointed questions on what are their considerations when they're making decisions, and what should they be thinking about, and examples that they've had and vignettes that they've used in the past of how to come up with making a difficult decision. And to me, the content of this class is probably the best so far out of the 2 other classes. And it's a super deep dive into, again, like we're talking about leaders making decisions, and we want to learn how to make better decisions. So what are some of the nuances? What's going on cognitively when you make a decision? What are those biases? What are those tricks that your brain's playing on you? It's going into psychological and philosophical frameworks on making decisions, balancing, stability and instability. And it's, I think, just a class that I learned a ton building. And it was things that, man, I wish I had some of these little considerations in the past just to, stack the deck in my favor that I might make the most, righteous decision possible.
That's awesome.
But how important is that? So we're sitting in here as, 25, 30-year guys. Obviously, we understand the importance of that. But I think it's just as important for these young deputies and these officers that are coming into the profession.
Yeah.
They're out there on a ledge.
Yeah.
And so if they're not developing their decision-making skills at the start of their career, I mean, what's the repercussion of that? We've all seen what the repercussion of bad decisions does to our profession.
Yes, sir.
And so I could see that class being taught, maybe a variation of the class being taught at a junior level all the way to the senior level.
And again, like every class that I have, I try to, I feel like I'm the everyman. On the litmus test, it's like if I can understand this and put it into practical application, then I think most people can. And it's scalable too, but it's put into terms that I think are very relatable and very practical. And it's not just somebody using $10 words. It's like you can now take what we've talked about and apply it the moment we leave this room.
That's amazing.
That's the way it should be.
And
that's the way it should be.
That's the goal. And I think it works for people like at 10, 20, 30 years. The same with somebody that's been on the job for 2 or 3.
That's awesome.
But yeah, get it to people early as possible.
Absolutely.
I love it. That's fantastic. No, I mean, these are the things we want to hear. It's like we want to give practical tools. The whole idea of what we're trying to do right now is create a culture that there's authenticity there, but competency. Sure. We got to have both. You need to have the tools. I don't think it is fair of us to expect someone to do well if we don't give them the tools to do it.
Yeah.
And what we're doing now from a leadership perspective is we're giving you the tools to lead well, regardless of the level you are in the organization. Or your house.
Those are some things I think that we hear frequently from our students is, hey, you're giving me great tools. We're having great things, but somebody above me, below me, somewhere is not buying in. And I think that's really where, we'd love your advice on that for these young men and women that are listening. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that situation where leadership above you, below you, to the side, left and right is not buying in of what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I remember, 2000, 2020 timeframe, all the COs and CMCs of East and West Coast SEAL teams and the boat teams went to Coronado and sat down with Naval Special Warfare Command. And it was Admiral Colin Green at the time was in charge of Warcom, and basically just kind of wanted a roundtable to hear from some of the ESH-4 commands. And we started getting into some of the analytics behind the E9s and the Master Chiefs and the numbers that we had and some of the issues that were going on. And then we kind of pivoted and started talking about cultural things that were going on within the SEAL teams, and how some things were happening that we like this needs to kind of stop now. We need to kind of refocus and prioritize what we're doing and take a hard look at ourselves. And I remember standing up and like, well, if there's a cultural issue, it's like in this room. Like societal culture is like a top or a bottom, bottom driven up kind of thing, right? Like it's a difference between professional organizations and society in the culture that we want to have and we want to see. Like if it in general public, if it's top down driven, people are going to revolt against it, right? So you want it to be organic to a certain sense and have that culture be dictated by the constituents. Yeah. But in a professional organization, you're inviting people into, or you're hiring and selecting, like you create the culture.
Right.
So if something's permeating into the lower ranks, like it's not their fault, it's your fault.
Because you're accepting it.
Well, you're creating it.
When you accept it, you create the culture.
Yeah, you're the leader. Like you're the person that, you dictate the culture and deem what's acceptable and what people are going to do. Like, and culture simply is, the behavior of a group of people. Mm-hmm. And in a business or an organization that's professional, it's from the top. Yep. They drive it. So anything that's going on within the organization, it's the leader's fault. So you got to take a hard look at yourself. Yeah. And sometimes it's, I don't know, this might not be sometimes it's like generational. Yeah. Where it's like this generation has to go away. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's the case within.
Sure, I get that.
But a parallel to that from a nation state kind of thing is I remember we're in East Africa and there are, we're doing these, counterterrorism, counter-violent extremist organization operations. And there is a very finite number of people that own this battle space. And I remember sitting in the room with task force, with interagency partners, with Department of State, my crew, and we're all in there kind of dictating, okay, what is the direction that this country is going to go in? And we're working with, members of parliament and the president of that country. And I'm kind of looking around. It's like there's 10 people that are dictating what is going to happen in this organization, this country. Right? And, we're one personality away from this thing completely falling apart, I see. Wow. And then we're also dealing with, you start going down the chain of command, a lot of corruption within this military and a lot of people that are just kind of dictators and they're looking out for themselves. And it's almost like, guys, this is a 10-year thing. Like either we do something about these people that are in charge below us or we have to wait until they age out. Yeah. So what does that look like?
Yeah, more of a strategic plan, long-term plan versus a tactical plan.
So it's a really complicated thing. And, to the folks that, the sergeants or the lieutenants that are, trying to do their job and, implement a culture that they deem what it needs to be, and they're getting that feedback, just honest communication and feedback going back to the chain of command,
But then that goes back to the leaders, and I think there's a true difference between a leader and a boss, right? I do. I think a leader, if you're a true leader, you're going to be able to have those conversations. Yeah. Understanding that sometimes people are going to see things differently than you do, and you're going to be able to sit down and have that conversation. Maybe you change your point of view, maybe you don't, but you're capable of having that conversation.
Yeah.
I think what some of these young men and women are telling us is they are in a culture where maybe those conversations can't even take place. And so, like you said, it may take 5-10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we're planting the seeds that we never see harvest.
Correct, sir.
Yeah, well, I think it's important for people to understand, the sword that they're, willing to fall on too. Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that I kind of had to do, was identify, okay, what am I going to tolerate? What am I not going to tolerate? What can I work, the framework I can work within, and then what am I willing to get fired for, right? And if it hit that red line, like, I'm willing to die on that hill, because I think it's important enough. So that's for people, I think, to kind of take a look at and evaluate, but they have to evaluate what they're willing to risk as well. And
I don't think we've ever made that point. I like that, making a mountain out of a molehill. Yes, there are conversations and fights that are worth having, but some probably aren't. They hadn't baked enough.
Yeah, and I think from an energy perspective or an influence perspective, where you want to spend your influence. I mean, you only have so much, so you need to use that appropriately, because once you're out of those bullets, you're out. So you better make sure when you're spending that, you're spending it where it's going to get the most impact and be the most helpful.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. I think, because
that's a great point.
You can think of, okay, well, if I can't control it, I'm not going to let it take up real estate in my mind. I'll control what I can control and mitigate the rest.
Control the controllables.
But then, how long can you stay on that path? Like, what's going to be the precipice that, you finally can handle as much as, you can handle? And then, I don't know. It's a super it's very subjective too, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease sometimes. But if it's too squeaky, I'm going to throw it out and get a new wheel. So I think everybody needs to kind of evaluate their own, risk of what they're willing to lose and sacrifice by saying or doing whatever they're going to do, and what is it for? And, you can kind of look and, bin that and stack the criticality or the severity of it. But I think the biggest thing is, young leaders just, okay, you've got your gut instinct and your intuition, like, resist the urge to follow that blindly. Okay. If you are feeling something and you truly believe it, but you have the bandwidth to sit back and then challenge that gut instinct or that intuition, and you analyze it and the pros and cons, like, maybe there's a prejudice that's involved with this instinct that you have. Maybe there's a bias. Maybe there's a stereotype. Maybe there's something like affecting the integrity of this intuitional feeling that you have. So if you have the bandwidth to analyze and challenge that, to confirm or deny your intuition is taking you down the right or wrong path, then take it and do it. And then once you've gone through that process, then you have your answer.
So for a simple country boy like me, are you telling me that we should have processes in our decision making?
I think there might be a little bit that might help out.
And are you saying to this other simple country boy, what we need to do is take a breath and slow down and think about what we're thinking about? Is that what I'm hearing?
I might have heard that. I'm just saying.
It's funny. Like, we screw up the obvious things so much. Like, it's
sir.
I was talking about this with another guy, or in a class, where it's like we're talking about the weight loss industry, and it's like this multi-billion-dollar, industry, and it's like, okay, like, what's the secret? We'll do this, do that, do this. It's like, just burn more calories than you take in, and you'll lose weight. Have you ever seen anybody go on the show alone and come back after 100 days of the woods that have gained weight? No, they've been in a calorie deficit, and they've lost a lot of weight. It's like, boom, pay me. Like, it's simple.
Weight Watchers,
but we overcomplicate things, or we convolute it, or we just we focus on things that don't really, a lot of output but very little outcome.
Yeah, we joke. We joke about that, but we actually talk a lot about processes. My process is simple. It's typically a 3-step process, but I use the process to make decisions.
Yeah.
And so, we try to speak to these young men and women about developing a process early on. When time allows, use a process to make the decision.
Yeah, and it's got to be
Check
simple.
your emotions.
It's got to be simple.
Yeah.
It can't be complicated, just like a diet. Like if I want to start losing weight tomorrow, I'm not going to just go boom ketogenic and have this huge like sweeping change.
Sure.
Because it's like that's not tenable. I'm going to like
gradual.
it's got to be something that you can replicate and iterate and do it on a daily basis, and it works. So it can't be too complicated. And I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things, or even people in kind of my industry, I guess you could say. What they do is like I look at some folks, it's like all the mindfulness and all the meditation, and I'm just like, oh my God. I was like, I got 6 kids and one on the way. It's like, I don't want to be mindful. I was like, I just want to kind of chill out a little bit.
I want to chill.
And it's like, I don't know if living in the moment is the thing, but you're probably right. But
I'd say you get that process figured out.
I got to tell you, and I just observation. I think Stephen is the most quotable of any.
Oh, dude, I'm
quite literally written
right
down
now.
3 things that you've said today. I'm like T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll
going
give
in
you
a
a
book.
percentage. We'll
Thank
give you a
you.
percentage.
Thank you.
Well, I
Appreciate
can't
that.
wait to just have the ability to sit in your class. I mean, we're going to get to attend your class. I'm excited. If
too.
I'm sitting here just having a conversation with you and I've got, 10, 12 things already, I can't wait to sit down and
we've got
listen to
over
you.
100.
You're going to be underwhelmed. 'cause
Yeah.
No, sir.
similar
No,
things.
sir.
We got over 100 LEOs signed up for your first 2 classes.
No, that's great.
so.
I really appreciate it. And, my big thing is if we're not talking about something that you can use, I'm wasting your time.
You bet.
Exactly
You know?
right. And I love the whole idea of the program that we're trying to create is exactly what you just said. It's tools.
Yeah.
We're not up here to hear ourselves talk. We're not just wanting to throw out a bunch of big words to impress you. This is about how can you leave here today and be a better law enforcement officer, but also a better husband, wife, father, son, whatever you are. The goal is to make you a better human being.
Yeah.
And then in turn, you're going to be more effective at what you do.
Yeah, just push the ball down the field a little bit further
it.
for somebody. Like, what did you want to know? What would have helped you when you were 25 or 30?
Yeah.
To just kind of evolve and get to where, we are a little bit sooner. To then do the same thing for the next generation, and we can keep going.
Well,
That's
what
awesome, man.
was it that you said? No one has a copyright on leadership, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, it's not hidden. You're very real, and that's the way I've described you. You're very real. You're a very deep thinker, and that's what I enjoy. It's, hey man, leadership is not this hidden thing.
Yeah.
It's a path. It's a process.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for 100+ law enforcement officers to get to hear this knowledge.
Well, I think one of the other things too is you don't hide from the fact that leadership's difficult.
Super difficult.
I think it's the most difficult thing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, because by nature we're selfish. I mean, that's if we go back to the beginning of time, we're looking out for number one.
Yeah.
And so to be a leader, I'm the last person I'm looking out for. We're looking out for all these other folks, and we've got to.
I mean, it's akin to parenting.
Yes.
It's
very
just
much.
so difficult to get right, and you're with those people 24/7 pretty much for 18 years, and you hope that they're prepped to go out into the world, but you have a finite amount of time to lead teams, maybe 2 years max, and it's 8-10 hours a shift, and you just hope what you're doing makes a dent. But what I like is the diverse perspectives, where the students can hear what I've got to say, and maybe they'll pick up 1 or 2 little nuggets, and then you bring in somebody else that says it in a different way that makes an impact. And the more diversity of thought that they have, the more diverse their leadership portfolio is going to be, and they can kind of pick and choose what makes sense to them.
And that's pretty funny because we may come in back-to-back days and honestly talk about the same things.
Yeah.
And they just pick it up from you versus us or vice versa.
Yeah, no.
It's about that relatability to that particular student in the room.
Yeah, and then an outside perspective.
Yep.
again, it's like the coach
Yeah.
saying something to your kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I've been
It's
teaching
like,
you
you're
that.
I've been telling you that for 20 years.
Jerk, I just said the same thing.
Jump on the back.
So, like, I could see him with his kids, and he's like, I'm going to teach you to swim. They're like, Dad, you don't know anything. But there's some dude at the YMCA goes, I'm going to teach him how to swim. They're like, these are so smart. I would assume you know how to swim, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it's the same thing of, what ability somebody resonates with somebody just a little bit different.
And I'm just so close to the problem.
Yeah.
And I have no patience. Like, I save the best of me for everybody outside my home. You know?
Bro, I've been there.
Yeah,
We
Bro,
talk
you
about
need
that.
to attend our family class, sir. Kelvin does a great job
Yeah,
with our family
That's right.
class.
We talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife, she thinks it's funny if I ever get a compliment about, whatever, making a decision or being calm or cool and collected. She's like, who are they talking about?
Yeah. I've never seen that version.
Me. You guys should all listen to me.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we're looking forward to the opportunity to get you out in front of the LEOs. Excited about these new classes you're developing.
Yeah,
We definitely want to talk about that and see how we can get you tied into some more cops and deputies across the state.
Yes, sir.
I think you got a lot to add to our community.
Yeah, and the law enforcement community, my little brother's a law enforcement officer now. In working with local state agencies throughout my career in federal law enforcement, you guys are on deployment every single day, Like, you talk about guys in the military going overseas and serving. It's like, okay, that's like 6 to 12 months at a time. A cop wakes up, they kit the kid up, get their comms on, get the primary, secondary weapon, systems, and they go out and they enforce the law. And every vehicle you stop is an unclear space. You're dealing with unknowns every single time, and you don't know what's going to happen. Like, there is like the cumulative effect of that stress and that anxiety and like the ability to cope with all of that. It's so difficult, and it's a deployment that you guys are doing every single day.
For 30 years.
30 years, every day. And then any domestic call you go to could just turn into a very violent situation very quickly. And in the SEAL teams, we have this extensive workup. You're just train all the time. And the conditions are, you're replicating the conditions that you're going to go into overseas to the best of your ability, and it's dangerous. So that curve isn't as steep. And I think more funding needs to be thrown at law enforcement officers to get them into a lot of training. Not just this type of like academic education training, but situational training. Like, you shouldn't have the entirety of your career or the majority of it on the job training. And like the most formal training that you've gone through has been at the academy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're at the beginning of your career and then go.
Yeah, and I'll brag on these two over here. They took that to heart when we came in, and we made the decision that coming from where we came from as chiefs, undersheriffs, being cops, now we're tasked and given the privilege of leading this organization is to address that issue right there. Is to make what we do, one, relevant, right? Take what's not working and we know is not working and get rid of it. So make the training relevant, but then offer opportunities for training from day one to year 28 and 30. And so have to brag on them. Over 50 classes now in the advanced section, which we'll take anywhere in the state for free.
All that was staff. Staff took a commander's intent and a vision and made it happen. And it amazes me every day what they are capable of doing. And that's the coolest thing is watching them get excited about it, watching them see the growth, the students excited about it.
I think you get a special kind of person that wants to come in and serve. And I think that should be reciprocated in, the training that they get and the preparedness and the support. And, King for a day, every teacher, every cop, every first responder would be like starting off 6-figure salary in a training budget through the freaking roof.
You bet, man.
Because that's the, people that are educating our children or keeping us safe. I think you make it more competitive. Make the field more competitive. Bring the best people in. Get the best training possible, and you'll see the trickle-down effects. Because
that's awesome.
the daily things that I think police deal with and what they see, even if it's it's not combat. It's like seeing what happens in a traffic wreck and taking kids from a broken home, like that sticks with you, man. And then you got to do it again the next day.
Yeah, trauma's trauma. You know.
Well, not only the next day, the next call.
Yeah.
I mean, you could wrap that up and, I mean, be done with that fatality crash, whatever it is, and then, hey,
walk
the next
back to your MDT and you got 6 more
and
holding.
there's 6 holding, and you got to go through and go, all right, where am I going to triage? I'm going to that call next.
Prioritize to the next chaos.
You bet. And be the calm in the storm, like we like to tell them.
And that's what I think cops are good at, is like the ability to compartmentalize.
Sure.
You know, because you have to in certain situations, but you can only keep that up.
You got to have a let off valve, though, right?
You got to be able to off gas and decompress a little bit.
Well, and that's a training issue as well. So we've got to be taught how to do that. We've got to be given the resources and taught how to do that, because we didn't spend any time doing that when I was coming in.
No.
When I was growing up, I mean,
and I think those are the things, like, it has to be the right person teaching them.
Yeah.
I remember we started doing this, like, tactically, ethically based training that came up. And it was like we had the chaplains teaching it. And it's like, nobody wants to hear from the chaplain about this. Like, I want to hear from the guy that's been
lived experiences,
like on the battlefield, that's had to navigate ethical dilemmas and what they did and what they felt and how they acted, and when they failed, what happened, when they succeeded, what happened. But it's got to be the right people teaching the training that, you know, resonates and relates to the people, and it can't be just this outside entity that is alien to people, because that's going to be like a fart in church. Nobody's going to listen. You know, that's how it's going to land. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I love the fact, and that's why you're here, brother, because you bring that perspective and you're bringing it in and you get it.
Yeah.
And what you've just said is why it's important. It's why you're here.
Yeah, and I hope you know. I hope it relates, and I hope people take something away from it. And it is, you know, it's a major privilege, and I try not to take it for granted to the best of my ability. You're talking about, you know, the purpose in life.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a special thing that there's a lot of guys out there that are like me, that have something to offer and something to say, that aren't afforded the platform to do it. And it's oftentimes a very cathartic thing to talk about these things, for me personally, from a selfish standpoint. But it also is a purposeful existence to do something, you know, good with what you have to offer, and the hopes that it helps somebody else, you know, live a more effective or efficient, better life, whatever the case is.
I think one of our goals is to continue to build these type of relationships. We didn't know each other 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And just happenstance, we were in the same room at the same time and had a conversation that led us to being here today. And I think that's important for us to sometimes get out of our comfort zone, out of our circle, to bring in guys like you who are purpose-driven, with a lot to offer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our law enforcement community, first responder community, is going to benefit with the relationship that we're building with you and what you're doing. I mean, it's really,
it's
cool.
fun, man. It's like I miss this.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
My company is I'm an army of one.
Yeah.
So got room to grow. But I don't miss the job necessarily, but I miss the guys.
Yeah.
Camaraderie.
I miss that, being around.
Yeah.
You know, guys, and just having fun with the people that you work with. It's cool.
Well, our door's always open. I mean, we've expressed that to you, but you're welcome anytime. And,
thank you.
I bet we could find some range time somewhere. And
gonna drag Sean out of his hole. And
we've got some other friends that we're gonna bring on the show eventually. Introduce. I mean, he's like. So I was doing show prep and just trying to pull some data. He has zero internet.
He wants to keep it though.
Man, I got to figure that out. I don't know what the secret is. But
I don't know either. I tried to talk to him about it, and he's like, dude, I moved out here for a specific reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, it wasn't to be on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I've never met a ghost. I mean, I've met Sean, but he's kind of a ghost.
That's by design.
He's
a very private guy, but he's another one of those guys that has this really cool career.
Yeah, maybe we can just get him to the range. Let's find some range time.
Oh,
we have a lot of fun, and I think that's something else that we miss. And maybe we'll wrap up with this. But if you're not having fun anymore, go find something else to do.
Yeah, you got to have fun, or else
Yeah.
what the hell are you doing?
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, just dying a very slow death.
That's
You
right.
are. And
You're
then
exactly right.
it's inevitable that we're going to die anyway, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to have some fun while we're doing it because
Yeah.
we've all talked about, this is our season. This door opened for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
We walk through it, take advantage of it.
Yeah. No,
so-
I 100% believe that. Like, you're pointed into a direction to then exercise free will.
Yep.
And then you make the best choice you can.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, in case you're wondering, you're 100% doing it, Ron. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank
No,
you.
thank you guys.
Man,
Really
seriously.
appreciate
So,
it. Thank you.
all right. Well, I guess that's a great point for us to stop and wrap up for the day. So, again, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll definitely be having some more conversations with Steve. And
We'll bring him back again.
yeah, you'll be the third repeat.
Do they get a
Another love
jacket?
fest of us
Do they
complimenting
get a
each other.
jacket? I mean,
Yeah,
how does this
eventually-
work? A 10-8 jacket or something?
Are you going to have
Maybe a
those
t-
made? You've got the stickers.
Yes.
What
I
if we
think-
just put a sticker on a white
No,
T-shirt?
no. He needs something big. I'll work on it, sir.
Okay,
I'll
all
work
right,
on
you
it.
work
Yeah,
on it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
a West Side Story intro.
Yes, sir.
just with leather jackets or something.
That you pulled that out,
This
I
is
like
going
you
someplace
even
I don't
more
want to
now.
go. So
Dance fight.
Wow.
Did he just say
He
dance?
did. He did.
Right there.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
10 of our listeners.
I can
heard
see
that.
your twin brother saying that. It really surprised me that you did.
No, I'll dance fight. With my yo-yo. a la Zoolander.
Yes.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, sir, you're closing out.
Oh, I'm closing out.
You're
Okay.
thanking
All
everybody,
right,
sir.
Thank you,
So-
Governor.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we wrap up today, what a great show. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for letting me be part of this team. It's a privilege to get to do what we do. But as always, thank the governor. Thank Governor Sanders for the opportunity for us to be in these positions of leadership to do the things that we do. Secretary Hager for his leadership with the Department of Public Safety, and our Attorney General for providing the funding for the studio and what that has led us to. Our staff behind the cameras over here, just fantastic. Jonathan.
stars.
Yeah, rock stars. And we just appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening, and hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys.